Morning, everyone. My normal mic's not working this morning, so I'm going to use the Rockstar mic. I'm not used to doing that. So, how am I? Am I all right? Yeah. How do I look? That's pretty much what I thought. Okay, so welcome to the final thrilling installment, I should say, of a series that we're calling More. The premise of everything that we've talked about over the last 4 weeks is that most people don't ruin their lives, they waste them. And of course the great tragedy of such a waste is that when the years take their inevitable toll and we die, we do so without ever having lived quite as fully as we might. And so in this series we're talking about you being more than what you've thus far settled for. And in talking about this, what we're saying is that second best isn't good enough. Not for you. You deserve more. You're capable of being more, of doing more, of achieving more. Plodding along doesn't cut it. Living half a life isn't good enough. In every area of our lives. In our careers, in our relationships, in our physical, emotional health, in our aspiration to follow Jesus through life, we are all capable of being so much more than what we've settled for. And it's very nice to say that, and I'm sure it's equally nice to hear it. However, this morning I want to talk a little bit about the yeah, but. I want to talk about that thing, and you know what it is. That thing that makes you less, even while you're trying to be more. That thing that holds you back, even while you're trying to move yourself forwards. So to enter into the pathos and the power of this morning's Bible teaching, I want you to get that thing in your mind. The setback, the disappointment, the discouragement, the difficulty, the failure, the dirtiness, the complication. And with that thing in your mind, let's turn together to the second book of the Kings, the Bible's version of the Game of Thrones, and let's look at one of its stereotypically weird stories, and from the weirdness, let's learn together. So, in the second book of Kings, chapter 4 and verse 8, we're told that one day Elisha went to Shunem, and a well-to-do woman was there, who urged him to stay for a meal. So Elijah, as I told you 2 weeks ago, is a prophet. That is, he's one of those strange characters in the Bible through whom God speaks and through whom God acts. And this character in this story meets a woman whom we are told is well-to-do. So this is a woman who knows her way around a Williams-Sonoma catalogue. This is a woman who knows her Clary from her Beaujolais. This is a woman who's on first name terms with the sales associates at Holt Renfrew, and she never has to say a silent prayer whenever she hands over her credit card. She is well-to-do. So whenever Elisha was in town, he stopped there to eat, which is only smart, because this well-to-do woman doesn't buy her food at Giant Tiger like you and I, oh no. She buys her food in stores that the likes of you and I have never even heard of. And from the text I get the impression that this successful woman who could cook was extraordinarily kind. I like to think of her as the total package. In the purest sense of the word, this is a beautiful, beautiful human being. And in the next sentence she says to her husband, I know that this man who often comes our way is a holy man of God. So let's make a small room on the roof and put in it a bed and a table, a chair and a lamp for him. And then he can stay there whenever he comes to us. In other words, hey, this strange prophet often comes into town on church business. And when he's in town, he always stays at that crappy hotel on Highway 50 and you know, the one that smells of last week's cigarettes, and I just don't feel good about a man like that staying in a place like that. So how about we build an extension onto our house so that he can have that space for himself whenever he comes into town. Now, men. Imagine how that conversation would go in your home. How would you react if your wife floated the idea of building an extension onto your home for the exclusive use of a travelling gentleman whenever he happened to be in town? I would imagine that you would say, no chance. And so the fact that this husband readily agrees to his wife's suggestion tells me something about their relationship and what sort of woman this is. Neither of these highly successful people are fools. This man is used to his wife doing this kind of thing. He's used to her saying, hey, let's do something crazy to help that single mother. Let's spend a fortune and help those homeless people. Let's buy furniture for that, for that poor family who are just starting out. He's married to a good-looking, good-cooking, good woman. And he likes it. And he'll do anything for her. He'll move heaven and earth for her, up to and including building an extension on his house for Elisha the prophet. Fast forward months, years later. One day when Elisha came, he went up to his room and lay down there. He said to his servant Gehazi, call the Shunammite. So he called her and she stood before him. So picture the scene. Elisha is lying down in a room that this woman has made for his exclusive use. And he feels comfortable. And he feels appreciative. I mean, he can tell by the quality of the bedding and the Pottery Barn towels and the Yankee candles and all that stuff that this woman has gone to a huge effort for him, and he's noticed it and he likes it, and he feels this need, like you do, to do something for her, to show her some sort of reciprocal kindness. And so he says, you've gone to all this trouble for us. What can we do for you? Can we speak to the king or the commander of the army on your behalf? I mean, I'm well connected around here. I know all the right people. People in this town owe me favours, and I'm more than happy to call some of those favours in to help you out a little bit. Now remember, this is a story in which Elisha is a person through whom God speaks, through whom God acts, through whom God does stuff for people. So put yourself in her shoes for a moment. You're before this God's person through whom stuff can happen, and this person says to you, what do you need? What do you need? Is there anything you need? I mean, I know you've got a great life. But how can I make it greater? I know your life works really well and everything's tickety-boo right now, but is there anything I can do for you to take you to the next level, to take you forward to a place you never even imagined you'd go? What do you need? Anything you want. Carte blanche, it's yours. She says, I have a home among my own people, which is an ancient Hebrew way of saying, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. So off she goes. She's good. She doesn't need anything. She's good. I'm good. So Elisha turns to his servant and says, really? I mean, is there nothing this woman needs? Is there nothing that we could do to help this woman? And at that point, he discovers that actually she has no son. And her husband is old. Well, what? You see, I I thought that what just happened in the conversation we just had is that I, as the person through whom God speaks and through whom God acts, asked her, is there anything at all that she needs? And she said, no, I don't need anything because I'm good. Isn't that what just happened? I'm good. And now you're telling me that this woman who says everything is good is dealing with very painful issues of infertility. The Bible, as you know, comes from the ancient cultures of the Levantan Crescent, and in those cultures, for a woman not to have a child is for a woman, or was for a woman, to endure a degree of shame that we can barely understand in our culture. Sure, we know about the pain of infertility. We know about, as Sylvia Plath put it, the empty echo. But in these ancient cultures, the pain of infertility went a lot deeper than that. It was to perpetually live a second-best life. It was to be sentenced to a life of halfness, of incompleteness. So she has this good husband who'll do anything for her. She has this good life. She has everything together, but there's this huge gaping hole in her story. And I don't know, maybe that's why she's such a good cook. Maybe that's why she's so successful. Maybe that's why she's so kind. Because for years she's trying to make up for this big thing that's missing in her life. It's a familiar refrain in the Bible. In a world where children are thought to be a blessing, why am I so unblessed? In a world where sons are thought to be a reward from God, why am I so cursed? And there's no question at all that that's how everyone in her culture would have felt about not having a child. It is to have this huge hole. Which raises the question, why, when asked, is there anything you need, does this woman who has a huge need choose to say, I'm good. I'm good. Why shut the conversation down so abruptly? Now, whatever the answer to that question is, it is clear that this woman has settled for second best. She has long since accepted that hers will be a life half lived. And so the pain gets buried deep inside somewhere, and whenever someone asks her, how are you doing? She's always good. Whenever someone asks her, is there anything you need? She's always good. Whenever someone talks to her about how she can take it to the next level and move her life forward, she doesn't want to talk about it because she's always good. She's always happy. She's always fine. Don't go there. But Elisha isn't satisfied to let her be. He's gotten it into his head that he's going to do something for her. And I would suggest that the insistence of this rather strange prophet tells us something interesting about the God in whom we believe, or in whom we are trying to believe. I think that we think that God spends most of his spare time scheming up ways to get us. You know, to give us a cold, to teach us a lesson, to give us the fate that our mistakes deserve, to punish us for our naughtiness, to play a cruel joke on us. Somewhere deep down, this is our view of our Maker. But what if God isn't like that? What if God is in fact scheming of ways to bless our lives, to help us, to develop us into far more than we ever dreamed we could be? What if God is for us in ways we have not yet dared to imagine? So Elisha says to his servant, call the woman. It was a different culture. Call the woman. So there you are in this sentence, and God has called for you. God has called for you. How do you feel? In trouble? Like you used to feel when the headmaster called for you? Like you're going to get it? Or do you feel that you're about to be blessed? that your story is about to turn towards brighter days. She stands there before the person through whom God acts. Now in verse 13 previously, when he asked, what can I do for you? She told him very clearly that she was good, she was fine. You see, I'm well to do, remember that? I know my way around a Williams-Sonoma catalogue. I'm fine, I have it all. But Elisha is a prophet, and a prophet in the Bible isn't about seeing what's going on in the future. It's mainly about seeing what's going on in the present. And so when she says to him, I'm good, he says to her, no, that's not good enough. This time next year, you will hold in your arms a son. Now, I have a policy of never, ever, ever talking with a woman about anything to do with reproduction. And I think that all men should have this policy, because if, as a man, you talk with a woman about that stuff, you are almost certain to put your foot in it. Some years ago, I was talking with a person in this situation, and I suppose it was a business situation I was in, and you know, she was pregnant. I swear she was pregnant. Like, definitely pregnant. Like, no question about the pregnancy. And it turns out not so much. She just had pregnant-looking stomach fat or something. And that was the last time I ever went there. And so now, I don't care how pregnant a woman is. I don't care if she's like 10 months pregnant. Nothing is getting said, just in case. And, you know, something else I'd never say, how come you don't have any kids? I'd never say that. I'd never go into a person's home and say, hey, how come there's no photos of children on, you know, anywhere? What's up? What's wrong? I'd never go there. I just never ever go there. And for her, it was children and infertility. And for us, it's something else. We all have areas of our lives where we wish for people not to go. Don't go there with me. Don't ask me about that. Don't try to have a conversation with me about that. Don't go there. I'm good. Stay out. I'm fine. I'm fine. Don't go there. So I noticed with some interest that when Elisha says, you will have a son, she then, quick as a flash, says, no. Don't mislead me. Don't raise my hopes. This is not nice. And the reason that this interests me is because I see in her a deep-seated and long-settled disappointment. She's been down this road many times before. She's known the great highs of having her hopes raised and the great lows of having them dashed. And over the years, she's learned to live with her lot. She's made peace with second best. And so when Elisha says, you will have a son, she naturally objects to not only him going there, but to him saying those things to her. And that objection has become her settled response to God's kindness and goodness. Were God to say to you, you could be so much more, so much better, so much happier, so much more fulfilled, so much more successful. And here's how, and here's why. That thing that you have in your mind this morning, that setback, that disappointment, that discouragement, that dirtiness, that complication, that failure, it causes you to object to God's kindness for your future. Don't talk to me about my finances. They're too far out of control. Don't go there with me. I'm good. I'm good. Don't talk to me about my relationships. I've made too many mistakes, known too many heartbreaks, so don't go there with me. I'm good. I'm fine. Don't talk to me about hopes and dreams and all that stuff. It's too old for me now. I've let all that go. I've let all that slide. I've made peace with it all. So don't you go there with me again. I'm good. Let me be. I'm fine. And where do you think God wants to go? He wants to go to the very places of your life and mine where, for the best of reasons, we have hung the keep out sign on the door. And he insists on knocking. So when you say you could never and I could never and it would never, God says, well, yes, you could, and yes, it could. And I guess this is one of the reasons why the Bible says, let those who are weak say, I am strong. You have to look beyond the very thing that you're thinking about this morning, that thing that you think will hold you back forever, and see beyond it into the kindness that God has for your future. Next sentence. But, in spite of her objections, the woman became pregnant. And the next year, about that same time, she gave birth to a son, just as Elisha had told her. Booyah. We could end it there. We should end it there. Happy ending. God came through. The woman who had a great life got an even better one. The woman whose life was working pretty good, it began to work even better. The woman who was happy and content was even happier and even more contented. All the long years of her kindness and decency paid off. End of story. But the road to more is rarely linear. And if you live long enough, and if you follow God sincerely enough, and if you try to do the hard thing often enough, and if you trust God a few times, you will live to see the day that as your faith gets stronger, your circumstances get crueler. That as you rise to new heights, you fall to new depths. Verse 18, the child grew. That's what kids do. That's what good things do. They grow. One day he went out to his father, who was with the reapers, father and son working in a family business. Beautiful. And he said to his father, my head hurts. His father told his servant, carry him to his mother. That's a mother thing, I guess. After the servant had lifted him up and carried him to his mother, the boy sat on her lap until noon, and then he died. Is this like a sick joke? What is this? And this is so hard to face because not every good thing that we do and get and are given is going to grow and grow in our lives. Sometimes good things die, and the death causes us to question the point of the goodness. So there is this tension in the text. What kind of a kindness was this? What sort of a God do we have that would give this amazing promise to an amazingly good woman, only to watch it die? And notice, please, that the death happens at noon. At noon. This is just rubbing it in. At the very point of the day when life is most full of light, darkness comes. At the very point of the day when night is furthest away, night falls. And this then, for you and for me, is the point at which faith is abandoned. This is the point where a person enters the shadows of a lesser life. You hoped, you tried, you worked, you gave, and it failed. It all fell apart. What's the point? What's the use? So, the boy died. So she went up and laid him on the bed of the man of God. Why? Why not lay her dead child on his own bed? Why go into the room of this other person that was set apart for his exclusive use and lay her dead child on that bed? Why? And then she shut the door and she went out. Where's she going? What's she doing? I've been in the places you have where a good thing died, and normally what I feel like doing is giving up. What I never feel like doing is going out. But not this woman. This same woman who didn't ask for a baby isn't about to give one up now that the baby has died. She's going out. She's got a plan. So the next sentence, she calls her husband and says, "Please send me one of the servants and a donkey so I can go to the man of God quickly and return." To which her husband says, "Why go to him today? It's not the new moon or the Sabbath." Apparently, Elisha only worked on those days. So this is a familiar scene in lots of homes. Wife says to husband, "I've got an idea." Husband asks questions. Wife says, "Don't worry about it." So she saddles the donkey and says to her servant, "Lead on. Don't slow down for me unless I tell you." So she sets out and she comes to the man of God out at Mount Carmel, in the mountain where in the Old Testament gods were thought to live. In the mountain where in the Old Testament God was thought to do stuff, and stuff was thought to happen. Strange stuff, miraculous stuff. When he saw her in the distance, the man of God said to his servant Gehazi, "Look, there's the Shunammite. Run to meet her." I'm not going to run myself, obviously, so you do it. And when you get to her, ask her, "Are you all right? Is your husband all right? Is your child all right?" So he does that, and he asks her those questions, and she says to him, "Everything's all right." Now, when she says everything's all right, she's not blocking out the fact that her son has just died. She's simply not willing to waste any time talking to someone who can't do anything about it. Do you ever meet people like that? There's really not much point in talking to them. It's not that they're bad people or particularly stupid people. It's just that every minute you spend in conversation with those people is a minute of your life that you really are never going to get back. So she doesn't. This is the situation. I don't want to talk to the monkey. I want to talk to the organ grinder. I don't want to talk to the apprentice. I want to talk to the mechanic. So shut up and let me go on my way. And then she reaches the man of God at the mountain, and the story says she took hold of his feet. This is an intense and inappropriate moment. In the ancient world, the word feet is a euphemism for anything below the belt. And therefore anything below the belt, including the feet, is out of bounds, particularly for a good-looking, successful woman and a person of God. Such is the nature of this inappropriateness that Gehazi comes over and pushes her out of the way. But the man of God says, no, leave her alone. She's in bitter distress, and the Lord hasn't told me why. The man who sees cannot see. Then she says, "Did I ask you for a son? Did I ask you for anything? Did you not say to me, is there anything you need?" And I said, "No, I'm good." "Did I ask you for any of this? Didn't I tell you don't raise my hopes? I knew this was a bad idea. I'm so tired of having my hopes raised and of thinking that God is going to do something and that I get to a point in my life where I'm on the edge of making it, and I'm on the edge of a breakthrough, and I'm on the edge of changing into a better person, and it never, ever, ever works out. And I was happy with it not working out. I was happy with perpetual failure, but you raised my hopes that little bit further, and it was a stupid idea. You should never have spoken to me about being more than I've settled for. You should never have spoken to me about not being second best, because I pushed the boat out and I stuck my head above the parapet and I dared to dream and to love and to seek and to strive and to find. And I've lost. And in losing, I've fallen further than I ever thought I would fall. That This is the accusation of heaven's cruelty. Why did you set me on this path? A path I did not ask to travel, only for it to end here, in this place of pain. And in a place like this, in a church like this, called Life Point, not Death Point. Life Point. To talk of death is always, with our Christian beliefs, to talk of resurrection. After all, there's not much point to resurrection without a death preceding it, which raises the question, what is it in your life and mine that is in need of resurrection? What hope has died? What discipline has died? What faith has died? What dream has died? What relationship has died? What circumstance has died? Where has it all gone wrong? To talk of that place of death and despair is in church, in Christian church, in Jesus-following church. To talk about the possibility of something coming back to life. Elisha said to Gehazi, tuck your cloak into your belt, take my staff in your hand and run. Again, I'm not going to run, you should do it. Don't greet anyone you meet. If anyone greets you, don't answer. Lay my staff on the boy's face. The child's mother said, as surely as the Lord lives and as you live, I'm not leaving. So he got up and followed her. However, Gehazi went on ahead and laid the staff on the boy's face. There was no sound or response. No, because he's dead. This is another moment of cruelty for me. Right? There's this mother, right? She's just lost something she didn't want to lose. So she goes to the one man who she believes can do something about it. He does something about it. He sends his gaffer along on a job and gives him his staff and all that stuff. Lord of the Rings, Gandalf, all that stuff, right? This is good. My hopes are raised again. Didn't work. Didn't work. Is this more heavenly humor? I don't like it. When Elisha reached the house, there was the boy lying dead on his couch. Here we are at this issue again. Why did she lie her dead son on Elisha's bed? Why not lie her dead son on his own bed, surrounded by his own things, his Maple Leafs posters and Transformer toys and all that? Wouldn't that be the natural place to do it? I think she does this in this situation because she's saying this is a situation that only God can help with. I didn't ask for this. God did this. It's God's problem. God's going to have to fix it. And I mention that to you because you know me quite well, and you know that I'm not one of those people who thinks that our life is necessarily God's problem. That's not what I think. I think the huge areas of our lives are our problem. We need to get up every day and do stuff and make stuff happen and make good choices and work hard and bring what we can to the table to be the kind of people that God wants us to be. But only up to a point. The other side of the coin in a place of faith such as this is that there are huge swathes of our lives that are very much God's problem. There are huge swathes of our life, huge issues that we deal with, huge situations that we face, huge struggles that we have that are very much God's to fix, and God's to help, and God's to empower, and God's to strengthen. We are, after all, a people of faith. A people who believe that there is something more, and that something more is able to help us in our less. Anyway, so in the next sentence, Elisha went in, and he knows what's being asked of him here. And so he shut the door and he prays. I think he shuts the door as, I think the reason he shuts the door is because he's nervous. I mean, this kid is dead. And he's done some neat stuff before. He's helped people before, but this kid is dead. Next sentence. Then he got on the bed and lay on the boy, mouth to mouth, eyes to eyes, hands to hands. As he stretched himself out on him, the boy's body grew warm. Just so you know, if you ever need someone to pray for you at Life Point, this is not how we do it. Ever. This is weird, right? I don't know, I don't understand the weirdness, but it's just weird, right? So leave it alone, it's weird. Then Elisha turned away and walked back and forth in the room. And then he got on the bed and did the same thing again, and the boy sneezed 7 times and opened his eyes. Hope is restored. Life is given in death. Now, if that gives you more questions than answers, you've got it. Because the road to more, to better, is not marked by easy answers. It is marked by questions and failures and disappointments and struggles. But one thing we can say from this story is that when it seems that hope is gone, God still has something more in store. And I find it interesting. It's probably reading too much into the story, which I don't normally do, but I don't think you can make God do stuff for you. In fact, I'm certain you can't. But I think you can make room for God to move in your life. What does this woman do? She makes a room. She makes a room. And having made a room and had faith, God had room to move. So how does this land in our lives? If it is true that we can be more, if it is true that, as the Bible says, it is incumbent upon us to press on and move forward and take hold of the prize for which God has called us heavenward, then what about our objections? What about those areas of our lives where we have a tendency to hold up our hands and say, I'm good. I'm fine. Don't go there. Don't talk about that. Yeah, you are good. But if you could find a way to forgive that person for what they did, you'd be better. You are good. But if you could get over that disappointment, if you could get over that discouragement, you'd be better. I know you're good. I know you're fine. I know lots of things work in your life, but if you could get over that thing you did, that mistake you made, you'd be better. I know you're good. I know you don't want me to go there, but if you could stop thinking about yourself as being useless and clumsy and not worth it, you'd be better. You'd be better. That, I would suggest, is where God wants to go in your life. He wants to go where you don't want him to go. And the bravery of faith I pray for in your life and mine is that you let him. I think life, if you've got any questions, we maybe have time for 1 or 2, and we'll turn off the camera for the questions so you can ask them privately and they won't end up on YouTube. You know, I think that life is often... I have a whole bunch of old sweaters in my closet that really shouldn't be in my closet. But I'm kind of loath to throw them out because I'm comfortable with them. We never wear them in public. You're embarrassed to be seen in them. But you just get comfortable with your crap, don't you? You get comfortable with your own junk. Comfortable with second best. In your heart of hearts, you know there's more. In your heart of hearts, you know you can be better and do better and have better. It takes bravery to step towards it, and it takes faith to step towards it, and invite God into those areas of our lives. Make room for God in those areas of our lives, and you never know what surprises will come. Any questions? Yes.
When she